Hello, hello. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone. This is Rosie with Brave Sis Project, and we are going to do our second half of February birthday party. Now, I hope that everyone is enjoying Black History Month and learning lots of wonderful things and having lots of exciting celebrations. The great thing is that next month is Women's History Month, so we get to do even more of it. I am fully immersed in Brave Sis Land this weekend. I have been working on the final profiles of the 2022 book that's going to come out on Workman Press. I'm up to the W's, and I've had so many incredible discoveries writing about some of these women who I was not as familiar with their story as I wanted to be, and some of them were unknown to me and really incredible discoveries. So I can't wait to share it with you. I'm also having a ball because I'm creating all the different activities for the activity book. So that's going on. Last weekend, I spent all of the weekend working on the 2022 Journey Journal, the design pages, starting to lay in the birthday. Actually, it's not going to just be birthday parties. The design's going to be a little different. Just mixing it up a bit. Each page at the top, each day is going to have a little mini profile, a sentence or two on someone who was either born that day or who we want to just give some love to on that day. Not every day, not all 365 days of the year, but probably 300 of them. So it's a lot of graphic design. It's a lot of laying out. It's a lot of, the research was already done. So it's cool. It's keeping me very busy. Marquetta, the amazing illustrator, is starting to crank out the drawings for the 2022. So I'm doing two things at the same time. And I'm also continuing to create love and excitement and joy around the 2021 Journey Journal, because we still do have 10 and a half months left in the year and so much discovery to embark upon and so much to learn. So let's take a minute now to celebrate this half month's birthday girls. So I've been thinking about Augusta Savage a lot. She was actually born on leap year day, so she doesn't have a birthday, officially this year. February 29th was last year of 2020. But she was born in 1892. And when she was a little girl, her father was very religious, and he literally tried to beat art out of her. She lived in Georgia, I believe, and the ground was very muddy and clayey, and so she would just go play in the dirt and actually have the clay and start to create these little sculpted figurines that she would play with. And her father thought that was a graven image and not Christian and kind of satanic, and so he would try to beat her, but she just loved being an artist so much anyway, and she just kept doing it. She started to get encouraged by a teacher at school, and then she started winning little awards in high school, and she had a baby as a teenager and moved to New York City and tried to make it as an artist. She got some great tutelage and support, but you have to imagine this was the early 1900s, and she also experienced a lot of racism. She got admitted into a really prestigious art school, sculpture academy in Paris. And then when they found out that she was Black, they rescinded the invitation. This was all also during the Great Depression. She managed to finally get to France at the end of the day through some other sponsorship. Reading her story, I was interested. Totally different situation, but in the late 80s, I won a Fulbright fellowship in the U.S., and the French arm of Fulbright rejected me. Didn't rescind it. I got accepted into the American half of the program, but not the French half. And I went to Paris anyway, as those of you who know me know, and I lived there for 7 years anyway, but it would have been great to have started out with the support of that fellowship. So read about Augusta Savage. I'm like, yeah, girl, not much has changed. I hear you. She ended up having a really great career, despite all of the trouble that all the headwinds she had to face. She was one of 4 women and only 2 African Americans to have a commission for the 1939 New York World's Fair. She created a massive sculpture called, it actually has two names. The one I used in the book was its old name, which is Lift Every Voice and Sing, which is, of course, based on the title of the Black National Anthem. It's a really cool, you should look it up on Google. It's a really cool sculpture that looks like a giant harp, and each string of the harp is a person, and it's like the Book of God. It's really cool, and people loved it at the World's Fair. It was the most photographed work there. They created replicas of it that like sold out, and it was really, really cool for her. The sad thing is because she was almost always the archetype of the struggling artist. She was very, very poor, never had enough money, and could not afford to cast her work in bronze, much less, of course, sculpt in marble or anything at that time. So it was in a softer material that then was painted. At the end of the national anthem, hi Casey, at the end of the national anthem, at the end of the World's Fair, they smashed the work to bits. So it's no longer existent. And that's what happened with a lot of her work. In the 40s, once the Harlem Renaissance, she went and lived in Europe for many, many years and then came back to the U.S. after the Harlem Renaissance was winding down, and she opened the Savage School of Arts and Culture in Harlem in a basement, and she really wanted as many people in the community to make art as possible. And one of the people who studied at her studio was Jacob Lawrence. And any of you who know history of American fine art, he became one of the biggest, earliest African-American male painters of enormous renown. And so we can trace his success back to Augusta Savage, who wanted everyday people and young aspiring artists to have that opportunity. And then later that turned into the Harlem Community Art Center. Writing more about her for the 2022 Workman book, so it's been really kind of cool to dive into her story even more deeply. Now, this woman here, you've heard me speak about her on Inauguration Day, Charlotta Amanda Spears Bass. She was born today. Happy birthday, Charlotta. She was born this day in 1874. She was an activist and educator. She lived in California. She was the first Black American woman to own and operate a newspaper in the U.S. It was called the California Eagle. Very interesting because today I've been researching Ida B. Wells, and Ida B. Wells was one of the very first Black American women journalists. But Charlotta actually owned the newspaper, and that was in like the 1880s. It was at the time the largest African-American newspaper on the West Coast. She, and this is why we spoke about it on Inauguration Day, she was the first Black American woman nominated for the U.S. vice presidency. That was in 1952 on the Progressive Party ticket. So that's a pretty cool thing. She was a very outspoken civil rights activist, and during the McCarthy era, she was persecuted and heavily surveyed by the FBI, and that continued up into her 90s. So she was really a badass, and she did not give up on her beliefs. And she's kind of a great inspiration for today, because we can't give up on our beliefs. You know, we see all sorts of things happen this week. Very much the whole theater of impeachment can be really frustrating and make us feel, what's the point? But again, I always want to go back to these brave sisters and say they never said to themselves, what's the point? They didn't give up. They kept going. And that's the message for us, I believe. On that note, this other birthday girl right here, I remember her. That's Barbara Jordan. She was born on February 21st, 1936. In 1966, she became the first African-American elected to the Texas Senate after Reconstruction, and the first Southern African-American woman ever elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. Now, you just think about Texas today. You can think about Texas in the 60s. Wasn't that much different, my friends. What she did was really incredible. In another impeachment story, during the House Judiciary Committee hearings against Nixon in the 70s, she delivered the opening statement. And so if we have really found Congressman Raskin inspiring this week, imagine what it was like to have Barbara Jordan do that in that time in the 70s. And it's online. You can go check it out. She was a pretty cool woman, and I remember she was a very low-key lesbian, had a very low-key personal life, but she was very, very influential, and she became acting governor of Texas for one day, June 10th, 1972. And so in the Journey Journal, I said, why don't we celebrate Governor Jordan Day on June 10th? So I'd be interested to know how you're planning to celebrate her. Really interesting women. So the three of them, and you see, once again, I have not colored them in. Bad girl. But I'm so busy creating new Journey Journal material that I haven't had time to color it in. Maybe I can try to do some this week because it is highly, highly, highly relaxing. Anyway, that is the February part 2 birthday party. I got to tell you, what we're working on for the 2022 Journey Journal is so exciting because we're mixing it up a little bit. Hi. Hey, Lisa. I love your stickers, by the way. I got some, and I just think they're so cute. So thank you so much. I have so many incredibly talented and creative friends, and it's been really cool to be in sisterhood and fellowship with you all. It's been a long time that I was like, creative, I don't have anything to create, and now I'm like fully in it, and it's so cool to connect with so many of you in this way, including Casey, who's a musician, and I'm not a musician, but we're still creating art and adding something beautiful and good to the world. So it feels awesome. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen and people of all stripes and interests, and even my dog who is in the room here with me, so humans and non-humans, just want to thank you for joining us for the birthday party. I really wish we could be having a real party. I wished we could have been celebrating, Toni Morrison's birthday and Zora Neale Hurston. I wanted to do a Their Eyes Were Watching God dinner party. Maybe for 2022. We'll keep the faith. We'll stay brave. We'll stay strong. We'll continue to celebrate. Here's my cover. It's really funny because I colored it with watercolors, and they've already kind of faded and smudged and changed, which is kind of neat because it's like life. Everything's moving around and shifting. So that's it. That's all I got to say. Nice to spend some time with you all, and I will see you in a couple of weeks for the 1st March Brave Sis 2021 Journey Journal birthday party. Peace out. Thanks. Bye.